Hello, Tyler. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing well too. Thank you. So, thanks for your time for this conversation.
No, my pleasure. Happy to jump on and share any advice that I can and talk through my process.
So, congratulations on getting admit offers with scholarships from two good programs, USC and UCLA. So, how do you feel
Thank
about this achievement?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I think thank you to you for helping me throughout this entire process. Obviously, coming into it, it was a process that was foreign to me. Obviously, I'd never applied to business school before, and obviously, there's so many components to it. So, you help sort of settle my nerves a little bit, calm me down, and help me keep peace of mind. And yeah, and it ended up with two admittances, so I couldn't be happier. So thank you.
I'm happy too, and it was my pleasure working with you.
Mhm.
So, for the audience who are listening, who are watching this video, could you please tell us something about your academic and professional background?
Sure, yes. I graduated in 2021. I went to a small liberal arts college. And after graduating, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I had interests. I majored in economics, so I sort of had an economics background, a data background, and grew up playing sports. So I was always into sports business. So my first job out of school was in sports business. And I liked that, but really didn't move the needle where I wanted it to move. So moved back out to Los Angeles and combined sort of my background in data with my sports and entertainment track. And I'm currently working for one of the top talent agencies in Los Angeles. And yeah, I've been there for about 2 years now, and yeah, going strong.
So that was my next question. You applied to MBA programs after 3 years of work experience.
Mhm.
Usually, people consider pursuing MBA after 5, 6 years of professional experience. So, what inspired you to make this decision sooner?
Well, I think it's twofold. Well, first of all, I always knew I wanted to go back to school and get a business degree. But in terms of timing, I think I don't know if I really have a set reason for it other than it just felt like the right time. I think complacency is a word that I would use. Just sort of I had been at my current job, very happy still at my current job for 2 years, and I just felt that, I could start broadening my horizons and contribute more to my current role with a more formal education. So that sort of triggered me, and you could, it was just felt like it was time to go back to school. And I felt like I was getting up doing the same thing every day, and it would start to, wanted to keep growing myself. So yeah, and that's why I chose to do a part-time program, because I really love where I'm at right now. And contribute to work during the day and then go to school at night. Yeah.
The beauty of part-time programs is you can keep working and pursuing studies and applying the learnings at work simultaneously.
Absolutely, right. And then I think for me too as well, coming from a smaller school, um, I don't know, I just felt there were certain classes, like technical classes and finance and stuff like that, that I hadn't, taken in the past. And I feel like some of my working knowledge of the finance industry is pretty much self-taught. So I wanted to go back to school and get sort of more concrete skills and tangible skills that I could apply to the work setting.
Yeah. Wonderful. So
Mhm.
you are here now. So,
Yes,
and before pursuing MBA, they have to take the test.
that is true.
Is an essential component of MBA applications. And you took GMAT Focus Edition, which is
I
a
did.
test you secured 675, yeah, which
Hmm.
equates to GMAT score of 720. So
Right.
since it is a new test and there is a lot of curiosity around this test and how it compares to the classic GMAT, so would you like to share your experiences and advice regarding this test, how to approach this test?
Absolutely. No, I could talk about the GMAT Focus Edition for hours. I mean, it's felt
Wow.
like it was months of my of I guess last fall, well, end of summer, early fall, really preparing for it. Well, I think I some schools are test optional, but for me, wanting to shoot for USC and UCLA with my GPA, I mean, I had a solid GPA coming out of college. Don't get me wrong, but I knew the GMAT would be something where I could set myself apart, and that if I wanted a chance to get into these schools, taking the GMAT and getting a good score on the GMAT Focus Edition would be a weapon that if done properly and gotten a good score would help me. So I was fully on board, committed to the GMAT Focus Edition. And keep in mind, so the GMAT Focus Edition came out I believe in the fall in September, but it was running in parallel with the current GMAT. And then as of this past January 2024, that's when the normal GMAT went defunct and the GMAT Focus Edition took place, replaced it full time. And I think in terms of study processing, or my study process, it's a little bit, I think, for me, first of just refreshing myself on basic stuff that I haven't really done since high school, right? Math, basic algebra, um, and stuff like that. But for the most part, being a time test and a shorter test overall, it was for me was speed, just in the beginning, making sure I know the information and I can, do practice problems and get them right. But then after taking a couple practice exams, I was like, all right, I'm not getting the score that I want, and I wasn't finishing all the sections. So that's when really working on speed and doing practice problems, really, really focusing on speed, because you only have 45 minutes for each section and
Yeah.
there's about 20 questions per section. So yeah, maybe 2 minutes per question. And by the time it takes you to finish reading the question and figuring out what you have to do and then actually doing the problem, and then, God forbid you want to double check your work. It's, you got to be on to the next question. So speed, speed, speed. And yeah, and it was, yeah, a very strenuous process, but I'm glad when I finally closed the books, I didn't have to study anymore, no more practice problems. So that was a really good feeling. And in terms of scoring, I was a little perplexed because I had only known the scoring for the normal GMAT. And when I finished taking the test, I took it at a exam center and I got my score back instantly. It spits it out at the end. And I was like, okay, 675. I mean, that's solid for the normal GMAT. So I was like, okay, I'll probably want to take it again. But it wasn't until I looked at the conversion charts of what it would equivalent, or what the equivalent would be for the normal GMAT. And I was like, okay, 720. I was like, if that's really the case, then I'm content with that. So yeah, you know, I yeah, I was moving quick, got the test. I finished taking the test around Christmas time, and by early January, I had to submit applications. So
And any advice, particularly on how to approach data insights questions?
sure, yeah. So for me, that was the section I actually scored the highest on, because the scoring obviously is done based off your percentile. So there's 20 something questions for each section.
Mhm.
And I got more data questions wrong than I got math questions wrong, or the quantitative. However, I got a much higher score on the data as opposed to the quantitative, because I suppose most people do really well on the quantitative.
Mhm.
So I finished, I think, in the 70s. I only got 3 or 4 questions wrong in quantitative, but I finished in the 76th percentile, where versus the data section, I maybe got 4 or 5 wrong, but finished in the high 90 in the high 90s in terms of percentile. So with that being said, knowing that you have a little bit more of a buffer room with the data, knowing that that might not, you don't have to get as many right to get a good score.
Mhm.
It's really, I think, stopping and asking yourself what the question's asking. And I know for me a lot, I would make silly mistakes on the data section. And I almost equate it to like a reading comprehension, like how well can you read what's asking? Because a lot of times the math or the logic isn't that complicated. It's just like, are they trying to trick me? Are they not trying to trick me? Like thoroughly read the question, right? The ones where you have two statements, statement one, statement two, right? And then it asks you, is one statement alone true, or is the second statement alone true, or they depend on each other? It's really just taking your time and reading the questions thoroughly.
Keeping your
Yeah,
calm,
yeah.
taking time to read your questions and understand your questions and then
Yeah,
answering.
because for the most part, it's all. I mean, I guess this is what people say too. Like, there obviously has to be studying done for the GMAT in terms of like the math section, but in terms of reading comprehension and some of the data stuff, I mean, for the most part, it's really just testing your intuition and your
Yeah,
logic and how well can you reason.
right.
So, obviously, you want to do as many practices as you can, so you're familiar with the flow and how they ask questions, and can become better at them. But my biggest advice with that is, for the most part, I have faith that you'll be smart enough to figure out the answer. It's
Yeah,
just, can you have the composure to take a deep breath and figure it out in a time crunch?
good. And you said you took months to prepare for GMAT?
I did. Probably started studying in the beginning of the summer. And for me, it wasn't, I just, because I knew I wanted to take it in the late fall, near the winter. So I was like, I'm just not going to just take a month or two and just really cram. I'll just buy the books every couple days. I'll do a couple practice problems. And then, life gets in the way, work gets in the way,
Right.
3 or 4 days go by, haven't done anything, but then I'll have some free time and I'll study for an hour or two. So it was sort of spaced out, but yeah, for the most part, I did study probably throughout the summer and then ended up taking the test and fall, I should say, and then ended up taking the test around the holiday season. So I probably studied more than most.
Yeah, even almost 6 months of preparation.
Yeah, really. Yeah. But it
Yeah,
wasn't 6 months of constant studying. It was a little bit here, a little bit
spaced out.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, with the applications, you reached out for assistance with your application essays a week before, a week or 10 days, I guess, before the
Yeah, very
application
close.
deadlines. And we accomplished multiple edits of all 4 essays of USC and UCLA within that limited time. And we were successful as well. But then you also accomplished LORs,
Hmm.
following up with recommenders and taking care of other application components. So what strategy you used that worked? What would you advise prospective applicants about
Yeah.
application strategy?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were just talking about studying, how I studied for a little bit here and a little bit there, and it wasn't, too too much of a time crunch. Yeah. Like after I took the test and started doing these applications, that was a big time crunch. So, like I said, I took the to answer both the questions sort of there. I took the test, like I said, near the holiday season. And I was always planning on applying round three. But the scorer, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with it here, and why not do round two? So that's why I reached out to you. Taking the test, I think mid-December, and knowing that both applications were due the first couple of days in January. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna go for it here. And I really just took it step by step. So reached out to you. You were very kind to say, all right, let's do this. We have two schools. We'll get them done. We did UCLA first because I believe that was the first one that needed to be submitted, and then a couple days later, the deadline was for USC. So we were able to get those done, and there was obviously so much time was being spent working on the essays that it's just like, oh, you have all these other components, right? You have to get your transcript, and over, the holiday season, it was tough to, track down my undergraduate um registrar's office to get my transcript, but finally got that in time, and obviously filling out the applications, and just questions about yourself, obviously, and then, like you mentioned, letters of recommendation. So for UCLA, USC did not require letters of recommendation, nor I think did I have the option to submit them, but UCLA did. And yeah, it was, I'm not gonna lie, that was sort of it was a little nerve-wracking saying, all right, like this is finally making it official, letting everybody know. And
Yeah.
because up till that point I was keeping it to myself. I'm studying, I'm working with you, but like once you go ask people for recommendations, you're sort of putting yourself out there, like, okay, it's public knowledge
Exactly.
now. And yeah, and I think just in terms of advice would be, find somebody that obviously knows you well, and knows your strengths and knows about you, but also find somebody that wants to see you succeed. Because I think a lot of times,
Yeah.
probably unfortunately, in the current day, it's such a competitive world, and you never know who really has your back or who is in it for what reasons. So, I mean, if you're able and you're lucky enough to find somebody that, wants to see you succeed, and um, that's something where both of my letters of recommendation, both of my current employer, and my other one was a smaller boutique firm I used to volunteer with. They wrote me one as well, and yeah, it was just something that, just continue just building relationships with people, because you never know, like, when you might need a favor from them. And yeah, just really just pick somebody that, is in it for you and wants to see you succeed. Because if that's the case, I can't imagine they would turn you down, or really say anything but the best for you. So yeah, I was very lucky, but going into it, when I had to ask, I was very nervous, because I was like, it's out in the open now. It's people know, and it's beginning of make or break. So,
Yeah.
but no, just having faith and staying even keel, and hoping it all works out. So,
It's good. It's a helpful suggestion.
mhm,
People who want to see you succeed. So that's
yeah,
a very helpful suggestion. Good.
absolutely.
So what did you find to be the most challenging part of application process, and how did you overcome it?
I think for me, sort of what we talked about, the most challenging part was getting everything done on time. Because in terms of taking the test to submitting applications, it was 10 days, a 10-day period for multiple schools. And of course, like I said, obviously I've never done this before, so I'm very overwhelmed, and I, really wanted this badly, and I had high hopes for both schools, so it can be very overwhelming. And I think in terms of overcoming it was just taking a deep breath and say, okay, you know, one application is due first and the other one's due a couple days later. So just focus one at a time. This way you're not mixing together thoughts, and okay, I'm going to focus all my attention on this, signed, sealed, delivered, and then focus all my attention on the next one. And that was the way I went about it. Right, we did UCLA first. Did the essays. I filled out the application, letters of recommendation, boom, submitted. Right, and then turned my attention, because I think if I were to just do them both like in tandem, I don't think
That's
I
what
probably,
that's what
yeah,
we decided, that we
yeah.
do the first school first deadline first, and then we'll pick up the school.
Right, because if you were to do them in tandem, right, I just feel like I don't know, you probably wouldn't put your best work on, either one, because you have all these thoughts, and you're just, I don't know, they're going in two different places. So um yeah, we did one, we did the other,
Yeah,
and we got them in time.
yeah. The end result was good. So,
Mhm.
having worked on USC and UCLA essays, how important do you think an applicant's personality, character, and values are in MBA program success, in addition to professional goals and accomplishments?
Just as important, I would say. I mean, I'm not working in admissions, so I don't really know, and maybe it might differ per school, but everything that I've heard, and I guess the questions that were asked both in interviews and in the essay questions were a lot about personality,
Yeah,
uh, they can see your grades and they can see where you've worked. They can see your resume, but they don't know who you are. And I think a lot of business in general is interacting with people and
right.
networking and how can people collaborate and build off ideas with each other and sort of grow together. So yeah, a lot of it was just smiling and just being honest about what you want to do and show you're a normal person and can laugh and can go out and have lunch, or you can put your head down and get to work when need be, being a
Yeah.
normal person. So yeah, I think that's sort of a big part of it as well. And just think about it like undergrad too, right? And you want to be, I think these schools, I'd imagine, want to foster communities where everybody likes each other, and it's a bright minded, smart, and outgoing community. So yeah, just show your personality,
Yeah.
and
And
smile.
USC's,
Always
USC,
remember to smile. Yeah.
yeah, personality plays an important role. And USC's question was open-ended. Address
Yeah.
it to the admission committee, and UCLA's essay question was about tell me about yourself and what you will bring to the
Yeah.
youth community.
Absolutely. Right. It's all about community and what can you bring? How can you benefit from others? And then in turn, how can others benefit from you? So
That's
collaboration and just being personable and you know, yeah, I think it's the key to life as well. So
that is so true. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Regarding your non-work experience, I found your non-work experience really compelling. And we also wrote about that in our
Mhm.
optional essay for both schools. So, would you like to discuss your extracurricular activities?
Sure. Yeah. No, going through school, I played basketball in college. And then when I stopped playing basketball and I wanted to explore other interests, I got into broadcasting. I broadcast some of the basketball games just as a passion project. I thought it was fun and a way to stay busy. I worked in the admissions office. I started giving campus tours, and then I got into more administrative role within the admissions office. Um, and yeah, I it's just for me and those things was just not really because I was paid. I mean, for most of them, I was not paid. It was just because I'm in college and I'm young and I'm not working full time. So what can I do that's interesting and fun and explore passions? And then, funny enough, where when uh, applying to jobs or when I'm telling my story and applying for business school, a lot of those extracurriculars have just popped up because they're a part of my story. And when
Yeah,
I'm trying to show who I am and somebody that likes to talk and loves to share information, use a play-by-play or being a tour guide or something like that as anecdotes to sort of bolster my story. So yeah, don't be afraid to, like we were saying, show personality and bring up the things you've done so you can really shape your story.
yeah. You were also sports announcer, which is pretty interesting. You were tour guide
Mm-hmm.
coordinator as well, and
Mm-hmm.
in college also you were campus tour guide. So, can you throw some
Mm-hmm.
light on these activities?
Yeah, no, like I said, I mean, they were all stuff that I did because I wanted to do them. the announcing I wasn't paid for, the tour stuff I was, but like I said, it wasn't about the money. It was about doing something that I just wanted to do and kept me busy um and it was just I think the first time, at least in my adult life, where I was doing things and extracurricular activities that I simply just had an interest in. And I was like, I'm gonna just pursue it. Why not? And I think growing up through grade school, everybody we talked about like fitting like a standard mold, and everything was black and white, and just did what everybody around you did. But it was the first time, I think, when I stopped playing basketball in college, where I could start, doing my own things and sort of spreading my wings a little bit, and do what I was interested in, not necessarily just the same cookie cutter stuff that I had done my entire life. So I got to break out a little bit, and yeah, like I said, it's I mean, it was all for the best, and I know I have no regrets doing any of that stuff because I had fun doing it.
And these are the activities through which you will contribute to school also.
Absolutely. No, and that's what I said during
Right.
a lot of the interview process. I mean, that's stuff that I look to do. I mean, whether it be directly like reaching out to prospective students and doing what I did during my undergraduate time in business school, or indirectly just using those communication skills to contribute in the classroom or collaborate with people
Right.
and stuff like that. So, either directly or indirectly, I mean, it's all the skills that I sort of displayed there, I still have with me and look to utilize in business school.
Of course.
Mhm.
So you have been accepted into two good programs,
Mhm.
and UCLA, and now you cannot attend both. So
Yes,
have you made a decision yet? You have
I
to
have.
choose one.
Yeah, I can only choose one. I have not made a decision yet. I sort of go back and forth. I'm a terrible decision maker. But people have sort of reassured me that this is common, that like, obviously it's a big decision, next 3 years of your life. And obviously what you gain from going to the schools, either school will stay with you for the rest of your life. And really will shape the rest of your life. So, big decision indeed. I have not made a decision yet. I live out in California. I'm from the East Coast. I'm waiting for my parents to come out next week, and I'll talk it over with them. We'll go visit each of the schools one last time, and we'll make a decision. But I've told myself, and people telling me, with both schools you can't go wrong. I mean,
Exactly.
there's no wrong answer. I mean, both are top of the line and
Yeah.
wonderful programs, and will really set you up for success. So, very fortunate to be accepted to both, but I can only choose one, and just doing
Exactly.
my time, not rushing into anything, and doing my due diligence, and we'll hopefully have a decision here shortly.
Yeah. So regarding interviews, I have seen people getting nervous before their interviews, but I found you to be very confident. You navigated the interview process very confidently. So, do you have any advice for prospective applicants?
Sure. I think my biggest thing, and what sort of settled my nerves a little bit, was knowing that they're essentially just personality interviews. And for me, I found this easy. I know might not be the case for some people, but going just for some job interviews, they'll ask you tactical questions like, "How would you handle this?" And well, there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. Where you didn't necessarily might have to study for an interview because so you can get the questions right. For these, there's no right or wrong answer. It's tell us about yourself. What can you bring to campus? Why do you want to pursue an MBA? So they're very open-ended questions where there's no right or wrong answer. So for me, it was all about, okay, just knowing your story and how can you share your story. And I really think that's what the whole admissions process is, sharing your story through your essays, and through your letters of recommendation, and the about yourself sections of the applications. And then in the interviews is about sort of knowing your story having your anecdotes, and how can you know, portray it. So for me, it was really just about knowing my story and thinking, okay, how can I share bits and pieces of it based off each of those sort of open-ended questions. And
Right.
once sort of figured that out, I was good to go because I know me and I can, you know, talk about why I want to go to school and what my interests are. And that was reassuring for me. And yeah, I guess for me, in terms of interviewing in general, like I'm not one to be extroverted in the sense like I was an announcer and I did tours, you know, and interviewing. Obviously, the pressure I think of interviewing for me comes with, am I going to get it or not, or are they going to like me or not? Not
Uh-huh.
necessarily, am I going to get the questions wrong that they're answering?
Uh-huh.
So the whole public speaking, quote unquote, thing for me is not a huge
Exactly.
deal. However, in social situations, I'm not the most, I feel like I'm the opposite. I'm pretty introverted when it comes to just walking over to somebody and introducing myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll be very quiet in that sense. However, if you give me a microphone and put me in front of people, I have no problem speaking. So I don't really know how that works. But I guess I fall on both sides of the token. So yeah, and I guess so that would be my biggest, long story short. I know I'm sort of rambling, but in terms of
You're
interviewing,
not
just
rambling.
know your story and be confident and share your story.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
your job as a sports announcer and public speaker helped you a lot with the interviews and
Yes. So I think,
time
you
off.
know, but the thing is with interviews, you know, you never know. You know, I've had interviews in the past where you walk out and you're like, yes, I did really well. And then you never hear back and they think, and you're, I guess, so they hated me. And there's some where you walk out of an interview and you're like, oh, I bombed that. I did so bad. I fumbled with my words. And then you get a call back and say, we'd like to interview you again. So, I mean, you never really know if you're going to mesh with the person that's interviewing you, but just be yourself, you know, and if it's meant to be and you're a good fit, you're a good fit because the last thing you'd want if you don't mesh well, would you really want to be hired into a job where you don't mesh with the people that work there? It might not be a good fit anyways. So
Right.
just be yourself and just have a little faith.
To have a little faith and be yourself and to gel with the person. Yeah, these are very good, helpful points for the interview. So, Tyler, it was wonderful having conversation with you. And is there anything that I haven't asked and you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered most of the process through the schools themselves, through the entire application process, and even beforehand with the GMAT. So yeah, like I said, we'll make a decision here shortly, but you know, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done throughout this whole process. Like we said, taking me last minute, you know, I was reached out, it was, you know, 11 o'clock at night, my time. And I reached out and I said, hey, you know, bit of a time crunch here. I'm applying to two schools. Like, I don't really know what they're looking for in the essays. Can you help me out? And you know, you helped me sort of, you know, clear my thoughts and orchestrate them, you know, in a manner that came across clearly. And yeah, can't thank you enough. And it ended up working out. So
I
nothing
enjoyed
but the
working
best.
with you, even
Yeah.
though it was on a time crunch. I really enjoyed working with you.
Likewise. Likewise.
And I'm so happy. I'm so thrilled at your success. And
Thank
I
you.
wish you good luck with your decision. As you said,
Thank you.
you can never
Thank
go
you.
wrong. Whether you accept USC or UCLA, you will be great
Thank you. I
at the
appreciate that. I
schools. But
appreciate
you can't be at both the schools, you know.
No, that's that's what they say.
You
You
have
can't
to
do both,
choose
right?
one.
You can only choose one, you know.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, thank you for your time. It was wonderful talking to you. And good luck with your MBA journey and continued success in your career. And stay in
Thank you so
touch.
much.
Stay in touch. We may talk again if you want about to discuss your MBA experience.
Absolutely. No, I'd be happy to. Any advice or you know, I wouldn't even say it's advice because I haven't, you know, really I haven't started school yet, but anything I can share about my process, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, once you make your decision, you can start connecting with students who are already there, and then you can go from there. You'll be fine. You'll
Absolutely.
enjoy there. It's a transformative experience, people say. That's what
Absolutely.
I heard from people. They really love it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
All right, then. Thanks again, and good luck with everything.